Okay, we're out here on a beautiful spring morning, and what I want to do sitting on my front porch is just be really informal with you and just give you some tips and some ideas on how to go about composing your own music. Now, we've covered scales and we've covered how to play some basic chords, and we've covered some basic theoretical concepts, and what I want to do now is show you how to kind of bring all of that together so that you can start writing your own music. And these are just some of my ideas, and they're just kind of a way to get you pointed in the right direction. So don't think that this is gospel. It's just simply my thought process that I want to share with you, and hopefully you can take it and run with it from there. So let's talk about first, our A minor chord. You've already got that. You've learned your C chord, of course. You've learned your G chord. You've learned your E major minor, and D minor. Okay, the caged formula, C-A-G-E-D. Now what I want to do is take just those 5 chords and show you how you can create entire songs from that. Okay, the first one I'm going to show you is just an A minor chord, okay? And you know how to play that now. And let's say your C chord. Okay, what's special about those 2 chords? Well, here's what's special about it. If you're in the key of A minor, the 3 chord would be C, and C is major in the key of A minor. So that's why those 2 chords, they're diatonically correct. They're in the key of A minor, okay? And 1 can easily go to 3. So in this case, the 1 chord is A minor, and the 3 chord is C. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm just playing chords, right? A, C. But the first composition technique I'll show you is arpeggiating the chord. What does that mean? It just simply means to play the chord in a broken manner like this. And did you see, all I did was I went down, and then I just came right back, or I went up the chord and then right back down it. Now I'm going to switch to the C chord, and all I need to move is my ring finger to fret 3, 5th string. So now let's say that this was the opening of your song. Just those 2 chords, A and C, just arpeggiating them. Okay, that sounds pretty good. And maybe you could do that for 4 or 5 measures, right? Well, let me give you another idea. You can arpeggiate the chord, but what if you added some notes that are not necessarily in that particular chord? And for example, here's my A chord, right? What if I just added 1 note, which is to simply hammer on and pull off on this 1st fret on the 2nd string? Okay, so it sounds like this. Okay, so I'm just changing it a little bit. I'm starting with a basic concept and I'm just varying it, okay? Well, that note fits, right? What about the 3rd fret 2nd string? Okay, how about this? So all I've done is taken that A chord and I'm just tweaking the notes a little bit, okay? And it doesn't matter necessarily right now if you know exactly which notes those are, okay? The point is, to your ear, you can hear that those notes fit. Okay, let's see if I can do that same concept, just tweaking the C chord a little bit. Okay, so we went from and to, right? That was the arpeggiated version, and then I just added some hammer-on and pull-offs. Okay, so that's going A to C. What are the other notes in the, or what are the other chords in the A minor scale? Well, we have A, we have C, which would be 3. Well, what would be the 4 chord of an A minor scale? Well, let's count up 4 notes starting with A. A, B, C, D. Okay, and the 4 chord can be major or minor in a minor key. So if I'm in the key of A minor, and I'm playing A minor and C right now in my composition, what if I added the D chord? okay, because then my chord progression would be 1 in the key of A minor, 3, which is a major key, in this case C, major chord C, and then D. Let's see what that sounds like. Now, generally the 4 chord goes back to 1. The 4 chord can also go to 5. So in the key of A, what would be the 5 chord? Let's count up. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so let's see what that would sound like if I added the E. So I'm going to go A, then C major, then D major, then E. Okay, so you can see how all I've done is I've taken the chords that are naturally occurring in the A minor scale, A, C, which is a 3 chord, D, which is the 4 chord, and E, which is the 5 chord, and we've created an entire song. Okay, so let me give you some other chord progression ideas. What if we started in the key of C? What would the 3 chord be in the key of C? Well, in C major, the 3 chord would be a minor chord, which would be E minor. So I have my C chord. So all I'm doing is going from the 1 chord in C to the 3 chord in C major, which is a E minor chord. And if you don't understand how I know if they're major or minor, you will as you progress through the course. Right now I just want to introduce you to the concept to get you playing. Okay, so let's see what we can do with the C chord. So you say, well, wait a minute, Dan, you added another chord in there. I did, and that was the G chord. Okay, and that's the 5 in the key of C. So it's very common to go from a 1 chord, which is your tonic, that's the tonal center of the key of C, right? So C chord goes to a 3 minor, which is E minor, goes to the 5 chord, which is G. Okay, that's another very common progression, 1, 3, and 5. Let's see, what else can I give you as far as tips? Okay, here's one idea. When you're writing a song and you're coming up with your own riffs, right, or your own melodies or harmonies, let's say, for example, I'm writing something, and generally what I'll do is I'll try not to get too complicated right off the, right from the start. What I'll do is I'll use just 3 strings and see what I can come up with just in those 3 strings. So let's say I started with the strings 4, 5, and 6, and I'm just playing the I'm fretting the 2nd fret on the 4th and 5th strings, which is my E minor chord. So that would be the whole chord, but I'm just going to use the bottom 3 strings. Okay, just those 3 strings. Then I'm going to add the partial G to that. Like this would be my full G chord. I'm just going to add the top or the bottom 3 strings. Okay, so let's see what that sounds like. How about if I added an F sharp in there as well? So maybe you don't know these note names, but the point I want to get across is that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay in this little area down here, right? So I'm going to play my E minor chord, then G, then I'm going to grab this note, which is the 2nd fret, and put all that together. So you see how I created an entire riff just basically with an E minor chord, the bottom 3 strings of that chord, then G, and then an F sharp thing. You don't need to really know what that chord is, but just know that I'm just fretting this top string up here. I'm playing the other two open. Okay, how about on the, if I did that same thing but using an A minor chord? How about... All I did was transpose that same riff I just wrote in E minor to the key of A, and the way I did that was simply by moving, instead of playing on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, I'm now playing on the 4th, the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. So I went from E minor to A minor. That's it. That's the only difference. What if I took a power chord, for example? Right? That's a simple B power chord. So that time I just said, okay, I'll take my power chord, and I wonder what other tonalities I can create, or other harmonies I can create out of that. Took that B, and all I did was move down 1 fret, move down another fret, but I'm keeping that B the whole time. So that's how you can just take a simple power chord, just start moving the notes around, and suddenly you're creating music. Okay, now what I want to do is just show you how some of the most simple songs, or some of the great rock and roll songs, right, are made of just a couple of chords, and how you can write your own riffs and your own songs. And of course I've got my distortion going on my guitar. And I just want to show you, for example, one song that you may recognize. Right, that's the opening riff of a very famous heavy metal song. And let's look at it for a second. I mean, basically, it's just a few notes. Okay, you've got an E string, you've got this note, and the A. So it's 4 notes. The beginning is just 4 notes put together in a certain rhythm. Okay, so all I'm doing is sliding up, and then that's it. Just 4 notes, okay? And the other notes basically are a G power chord, F sharp power chord, and an E minor power chord put together in a certain way. So basically we have 4 notes in the opening riff, and then when it goes into this little, all it is 3 chords, G, F sharp, and E, put together in a certain rhythm. Now, I'm not going to teach you that song, but I just want to point out that that's a very famous song, and it's only, basically 3 or 4 or 5 notes. Okay, so you can write your own music with very simple chords. And let me give you another example. Right, that's a Nirvana song. They sold about a zillion records off that one song, and it's the riff is 4 chords. It's 4 power chords. It's that simple. It's an E chord, right? A, G, all the way up to this, up to C. So the idea is that you can take very simple progressions, especially just power chords, which are just 2 notes, and you create entire songs from it. So let me give you an idea of how my brain works when I go about writing a song. If I take this E chord, right? That's an E power chord. It's just the octave from this. And I just start fiddling around with the rhythms, right? So what all I did was I took a simple rhythm, ya cha cha cha, ya cha cha, ya ya cha, right? And I added one, and it's one chord. And then I just moved one finger. So I changed the interval from perfect fifth to a minor sixth. I added rhythm to it and I got an opening riff. Okay, then maybe I can move it down a fret. It's that simple. So the idea is that I take, when you're composing music, you want to start with a simple chord, for example, or a simple rhythm that you have in your head. Take that rhythm and then just tweak the chord a little bit, and all of a sudden you've got enough for an entire riff. Let me give you another example. Let me go to detuning real quick. Here's a riff that I wrote a long time ago. Alright, let's break that down a little bit. The opening basically is all I did when I remember the thought process I was going through with writing this song. All I did was basically I'm sliding up from the flat 7 to the 1 in D, and then a minor third above that. So I just took a simple D scale, and we're going to get into more of this later in the course, but you take a simple D minor scale, and the 7th and D minor is flat, so, and then of course the 3rd is flat. So I took 3 notes from a D minor scale and wrote the opening riff of this. Now this note is D, this note is D, right, and C, and of course your F, and then I just started tweaking those notes. I said, what can I do with those 3 notes? Well, I can add this. I can slide up, or I could just go. Okay, that's another thing I could do. Sliding versus just playing the note. Instead of that, I did. So I just just tweaked it a little bit, gave it a little bit more character. And then I said, okay. Now instead of, I added a note. I simply added a 4th above my D and then above my C. So I went from having to having. So so you see how it's basically a 4-bar riff. The first bar and the second bar are the same. Okay. And then I have, now the first bar repeats. Then I said, for the 4th bar, I want to do something different than what I did in the 2nd, so how can I tweak to something different? And I said, well, and I'm not going to go into all those notes, but the idea is that music has this phrasing effect. Okay, you see how my first bar is the same as my 3rd bar. My second bar is going to be my 4th bar is going to be a little bit different than my 2nd. But basically, if you break it down theoretically, there's not a lot happening in that riff. The first measure is the same as the 3rd measure. Then I took the 2nd measure, which was, and I changed it to. Okay. So that was my opening riff, and then I just said, man, I have all this stuff going on in the front. Why don't I just do something simple for the basically what I'm going to sing over, okay? All right, let's break that down. Same concept. First measure is the same as the third. Second measure does something a little bit different, and the fourth measure is a variation of the second. Let me break that down for you. Okay, I went. So that's just simple power chords, but in the chorus, in the key, when in drop D tuning, you don't fret them like a power chord. You just bar it. Okay. So I went. That's our first phrase. Second phrase. So instead of going, all I did was, so I kept the same rhythm, just changed the chorus. Now, fourth measure, I'm going to repeat the first. Third measure, I'm going to repeat the first. See how that was exactly the same as the first? And now, okay, and I just stopped it there. And then it goes on in some other stuff that we're not going to go into. But what I want to show you is that these patterns of basically taking like this first phrase, the ya-da, dee-da-da-da, dee-da-da, taking that phrase, and then it repeats again. So when you're figuring out songs, look for these patterns, because in pop music and metal music and rock and roll, these patterns just normally occur all the time. And you basically have an opening riff normally, and then some type of a verse, and then a chorus, a bridge, a verse 2, and another chorus. And so if you kind of think of these things in blocks and not try to think of the whole song, trying to figure it out by yourself, or if you're writing your own music, not try to think I'm going to write an entire song. Just think I'm going to write this riff. That's a little building block. Then I'm going to write this other riff. That's another building block. Hey, can I put those two together? I can. Now how can I vary that to create a bridge? Just tweak it a little bit and then move on. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of how you can take these theory concepts that we've talked about and start to apply them to write your own music. And this is just some of my thought process that I go through. Hopefully that'll help you. So good luck. Congratulations for making it through the course, the first 4 DVDs at least, and press on. Thanks so much.